somebody, but he'll be up here in a little while to read. But right now we have another special guest. Someone who hasn't, well, I don't know, kind of mystical, spiritual, something like that, but Mr. Morris Collins.
I have a reading for you tonight from Charles Tinkham. He's a poet and English professor at Purdue-Calumet University. It's entitled, Fishermen Tell Stories of Lake Michigan. In the early 60s, one of my students introduced me to his father-in-law, August Sabinski, a family long known for its dedication to the fishing trade. At the time, Sabinski was living in a small cottage on the Chesterton beach, where he claimed squatters' rights. I talked to Sabinski on 2 different occasions, for about an hour and a half each time. He related to me a story from his childhood, watching the cremation of a body in the dunes. He said he could not be mistaken in this memory because he vividly remembered watching a body burn when he was about 10 years old. During the course of the burning, one arm, in an odd reflex, swung up and pointed toward the sky. He went on to describe a suicide club made up of prominent retired Chicago businessmen disillusioned with life, including men like Field and Peacock. At 12 o'clock each New Year's Eve, a hatful of slips would be passed from hand to hand. All but one of the slips would be blank, but the remaining slip would bear an X. If you were unlucky to draw the slip with the X, you were required to commit suicide. Then, according to Sabinski, the remaining members of the club were required to cremate your body. As if to prove his story was true, Sabinski showed me the first page of an issue of the Chicago Tribune, dated 1919. He pointed to a head reading, Fishermen Tell Stories of Lake Michigan. And under that head, I found the story he had just told me. When I pointed out that this argument did not prove the story true, Sabinski looked at me with some resentment and said, "Why would I lie to a newspaper reporter?" Now, there are many, of course, who would lie to a newspaper reporter for various reasons, with various intent. This man, Sabinski, may not exactly have been lying, but his story was also not the whole truth. I know. I was there. At least, in a manner of speaking. The real story starts at a place called the Whitechapel Club.
Just before the turn of the century, when your great-grandparents were coming to this wonderful land, when the land beyond New York was feeling its new maturity, Fleet Street in London carried a standard for journalism, and they carried the story of the century.
Jack the Ripper strikes again!
A poet, Humbert Wolff, wrote, "One cannot hope to bribe, thank God, a British journalist. Considering what they do unbribed, there is no need." In America, the newspaper was the news. The weary world plodded into the newsroom with a dreary tale to tell and came out screaming with headlines as bold as,
"Extra, extra, read all about it. Another Whitechapel murder. Jack the Ripper strikes again."
a reporter could make a career with the right scoop, the right style, the right connections, the right headline.
"Another Whitechapel murder."
He knew it had to stop. Those satin-gartered ladies, half drunk, laughing loose on street corners. Laughter, like hot needle itches under his skin. It had to fall, their hair pinned up from talc-white throats, bare swan necks, and the laughing sirens in his ears. It had to stop. He took her upstairs, feet stepping square against wood, her hands already eager betrayals under his waistcoat. His sweat dripping from sideburn to stiff collar, sweat creeping in random patterns down his chest. It had to stop. He would make it stop. Behind the door, he catches her off balance, in a crush of damp satin and scattering hairpins. A calm hand presses out her smile, mouth corners turning downward. Her screams only hot breath under his heavy palm. The razor drags a solid red line, monograms, a powdered throat, and calmly now, another slice. Precise. A section they decide, a separation, a study, a lover's bouquet he brings to me. The laughter stops. He knew it had to stop.
Read all about it.
Boy,
Yes, sir.
you got the New York Times?
Yes, sir.
You got the London Times?
Yes, sir.
You got the
Yes,
Reporter?
sir.
You got the Sun Times?
No, sir.
Good lad.
Yes, sir.
You got the Tribune?
On strike, sir.
That's right. How about the London Times?
Yes, sir.
Give me the rest of those.
Sure, sir.
How much?
12 cents, sir.
Outrageous.
Yes, sir,
outrageous.
I know.
Stay away from the other
Yes,
lady,
sir.
boy.
Where is this, anyway?
A police profile will state he was somehow not born even. Though we know that saints and killers slip with equal ease, all waxed and folded from shriveling bellies. One sucking on only the light, and the other spitting up dark, poisoned arrows.
Drinking anything, Mr. Dunn?
Anything, Mr. Aid, anything.
Anything it's going to be. Anything that's free.
Well, you know, we're almost out of Vin Mariana.
Bad Mariana.
Well, that too.
Yeah, Pope Leo the 13th can afford that, but not us.
Have a drink, sir. Have a drink.
Thank you.
We'll
Thanks.
toast. We'll toast.
The port's an old whiskey.
Companions.
Companions.
Through
Through
the
the
ages,
ages.
sir. Yes, indeed. You know, I was reading in the paper today. This Dooley cartoon here. It says, Hennessy and Dooley talking. He says, do you really believe alcohol's a necessary evil, Mr. Dooley? And Dooley says, well, if it's evil to a man, it's not necessary. And if it's necessary, it's an evil.
You're mighty proud of your own cartoons now, aren't you, Mr. Dunn?
It's true, it's my living.
You believe all this talk about prohibition?
Prohibition. I'll tell you this, sir. This world could be cracked, dry, parched, men crawling across the earth, pulling at the feet of the temperance goddess, begging for one drop of malignant drink. And tell me, tell me, would their one inverted paradise be?
Let me just sip a moment. Think about
Why,
that.
Chicago, sir, Chicago. Because by my Irish soul, the mayor of this town could be black as the shoeshine boy on the front steps before we would be drinking water and sarsaparilla in this town.
A man of color
Yes,
as mayor might cause some commotion.
Excuse me, sir, may I help you?
No, thank you. I'm deep in thought now. Deep in
Does it
thought.
hurt?
No, it doesn't hurt. No, I'm deep in thought. I had this audition. It hurt a little bit. I mean,
Oh, an audition.
I had this audition for the club, the Whitechapel Club. The interesting club. But I don't know exactly what they're on. Yes, the Whitechapel Club.
Perhaps maybe you'd have the price of the dues, maybe so a little bit of money.
No, but I've got a poem.
Got a poem.
You've been published?
No, I haven't been published, but I sure do write a lot of poems.
You ever get paid?
No, but I write them anyway.
Some collateral, perhaps. Credit. A house.
Credit. Well, I've got this poem.
He's got a poem. Well, maybe you'd care to favor us with a rendition of your poem, then.
No, but I'll be glad to read it for you.
Oh, good.
Okay. This is a poem I wrote. It goes, I believe it's done.
I see one here.
To call a thing communion, when the bond is disillusioned. To drink from dusty glasses, the fruit of sour vine. To find no love in spring breeze, then turn to flirt with cold breeze. To take so much for granted, leaves ready to be planted, seed of self-destruction, in minds of education. To call a thing communion, when the bond is disillusioned. To speak in terms of suicide, to say in death the glory
it's a fine
lies.
poem. It's a fine poem.
But I'm not done.
Yes, I'm done.
But
It's
I'm
fine.
not-
It's a fine
I'm not-
poem.
You think so?
It's quite substantial. Quite substantial.
Really?
But what we're looking for here is something a little bit more
Marketable.
Marketable. Yes,
Marketable.
indeed. Something we might sell, for money. Or
Yes.
liquor, or whiskey. Indeed.
Remarkable, but is it marketable?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Well, you're a likely lad.
I'm a likely lad.
It's true, and you have a fine imagination.
I have a fine imagination.
Feature this.
I'm featuring this.
It's the turn of the
It's
century.
the turn of the century.
You're French.
Oui.
Ah, an Indian scout.
An Indian scout.
You live in Chicago.
I live in Chicago.
Near the river.
Near the river.
In a teepee.
In a teepee.
Now, the town is featuring the Columbian
The
Exhibition.
Colombian expedition.
It's a big, wide world.
It's a big, wide world.
I want you to go out and scout
Let
us
me
up
go out
a
there and
story.
scout out a story.
Something marketable.
Something marketable.
Something diabolical.
Something diabolical.
Something
Something
fantastic.
fantastic.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Then can I read my poem?
Yes.
It says here, H.T. Bailey.
H.T. Bailey. I knew the
Suicide by chloroform.
Suicide. It says here his last words were, "The approach of death, like life, is stupid." That's awful. That's terrible. He called himself a writer. It's terrible.
Yeah. I hope your suicide note is more literate, Mr. Dunn.
I write my suicide notes every day in these editorial columns, sir.
Yeah. Don't flatter yourself, sir. You're more likely to be shot for that caricature you did of the city health inspector. Looks like a pig stepping over a rat, size of a Shetland pony.
Capture the essence of it all, you know. Well, sir, here, to suicide, sir, to suicide in all its forms. Yes, indeed, the slow
My
form.
favorite poem.
Cause of death, absurdity. But the Tribune will report an apparent suicide on page 26, and some typist will click out self-induced barbiturate overdose in triplicate. Then set her coffee cup down over your name.
Hello, sirs. Ah, Grizzly!
Ah,
Mr.
Mr.
Adams.
Dunn.
How are you, sir?
Fine, sir.
How goes it?
Fine.
How are you?
Mr. A.
You know, we were looking over the accounts just now, and we thought perhaps you might have some contribution for the club. You know, we're running a little short. of
Yes, I
funds.
do. In fact, I have the very handkerchief that Addie Maker tried to kill her husband
I
with.
read that.
Still a little
story.
bit of chloroform on there, too, sir.
Seems to be a popular form. You know, she didn't use enough chloroform
You never can.
to do her dear old husband harm, and here's to the man who kept his head and shot poor Addie dead instead.
Yes, sir, where do you read such garbage?
In the newspapers, sir. In the newspapers.
I don't believe in headlines. I don't believe in bylines. I don't believe in glass slippers Cinderella left behind. I don't believe in blood unless it's a friend. And I don't believe in headlines that scream Addie Maker, H.T. Bailey, or Jack the Ripper strikes again. Just don't believe it.
Indeed. Well, you know, it's a terrible thing. Terrible thing. got lots of business to take care of here.
No such thing as business, sir.
Well, just wonder where Dr. Spray is. He's due here any moment.
Business is our
Spray! Yes, indeed. Spray? Spray. Help the man out.
Spray.
Oh, well, yes, indeed. We were looking over the accounts as I was talking to Mr. Adams here, wondering if you had a little contribution. You know, the dues are ready to be paid.
A new treasure, Dr. Spray.
The skull of a murderer found hanging in the Cook County jails.
I think we should take him and put him in the skull room.
Let us.
Murdered himself. The sarcophagus beetles were none too happy when I removed him from their dinner table.
Well, we'll make him the mayor of the skull room. Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
How goes it at the coroner's office, sir? Still a little bit greasy, I think.
He shall be the mayor of the skull room.
Indeed.
Broken is the golden bowl. The spirit's flown forever. Let the bell toll. A saintly soul glides down the Stygian river. Let the burial rites be read. Let the funeral songs be sung. A dirge for the most lovely
There
dead.
he goes about old Lenore again.
Oh, God.
Disgusting. It's just disgusting.
Here, my friend.
Yes, indeed. Well, you
Gentlemen.
know, we've got...
Bonsoir!
Yes, indeed. I recognize you.
Ah, yes, but I don't believe I've ever met your name, sir.
Peter Finley Dunn.
Peter Finley Dunn.
Finley Dunn. Yes, indeed. Well,
But let me tell you something.
move your chair over.
You sent me out, and I come back.
You brought us something.
Fantastic. There's a man. He's
Oh,
man
good.
himself.
Well,
I met him, son.
we're
He
going-
was from a third. You don't understand. I need to tell you.
We're going to get the meeting started now. Why don't you come over here? You're so excitable. You know, have a seat on the floor. You're an Indian scout.
I can handle it, yes.
Now,
What do you mean?
let's get the meeting to order.
What
Too
do
many
you mean you're
interruptions.
talking about?
Mr. Aid, the invocation, please.
Gaudiamus, igitur, juvenes dum sumus. Post jucundum juventutem, post molestam senitutem, nos habebit humus, nos habebit humus. Viva Academia, viva professores, viva membrum qualibet, viva membrum qualibet, semper in florens, semper in florens. Viva lacus Michigan, viva stincus onion, honus bonus bullshit, politicus destro
One dwells in lonely places, newly with grass o'ergrown. Some solemn graces, some human memories, and tearful lore render him terrorless. His name? No more. He is the corporate silence. Dread him not. No power has he in evil of himself. But should some urgent fate, untimely lot, bring thee to meet his shadow, then, my friend, commend thyself to God.
Which lie? Which lie do you believe in, poets? Around a table conversing half-truths and costumes? Or newspapers and the bloody black and white truth they report and you read, turning each life with coffee-stained fingers? Or suicide, the promise of leaving this place hoping to be strong in some other world, this salvation by attrition? Which skulls lie hollow-eyed and mocking at your table? Which lie do you believe in?
I believe in God. You were so outside somebody.
Jackson!
Wait,
What's the scoop?
what is scoop?
The scoop, the fantastic details.
I don't know fantastic. What do you mean fantastic details? Details. This is a man. This man is from Texas.
Ah, Texas. Oh, Wild West
I met him at the bar.
cowboy. Yes, indeed.
I bought him a drink.
Let me write this down.
Bought him a drink. He had no money.
No money. A destitute?
He's destitute. What do you mean? I met him in a bar.
Driven to drink.
Given to
Yes,
drink.
indeed.
No, you
I
see,
like that.
he told me it was from a very, very unusual club.
Club member, a joiner, yes.
It was a club involved in suicide.
Suicide! Suicide! Now we're getting
What do
somewhere!
you mean getting somewhere?
A Wild
Here we are.
West cowboy!
Well,
driven
what are
to
you trying to
drink!
do? Putting words in my
Comes to
mouth.
the
What
big
do you want to
city.
understand this anymore?
Loses his job, destitute. Indeed, I think we've got something here.
I'll take them all without asking. Some with blackened lungs, caught on a weak exhale, or with hearts worn to bubblegum in final drum rolls. Here and there, a high school sweetheart, army green and off to war, and the infants, plucked from cradles or unsuspecting wombs. They all come, tugging back like hooked marlin. No match for this sport, this death. But some come purely in procession. They have been waiting to tear away the golden lockets, the named links. They come open-eyed and ready as scouts, finding their own way with markers of thin steel edge, friendly pills. They call out, and crashing through the door come home. For them, there is a rocking, a remembered lullaby, where sifting hands now cup and grab their only chance to die.
Gentlemen, I'll have a word with you, if I may,
Here, here.
on the subject of death. And let me first say, I have no fear of taking on such a noble companion, as many of our sort do. And why, gentlemen, tell me? Those who have met death do not come hurrying back
How
and
do you
seem
know?
to again be taken into the fold of the living.
Come
They
back.
go calmly, quietly, as all of our sort should.
This
What do you
boy,
mean?
no
With a
matter.
look
about
of
now?
peaceful bliss upon their features. And yes, gentlemen, that is the look which I wish to experience.
Here, here.
That is the peace which I intend to take.
Sweet
This
Jesus.
place you call a city,
Peace.
this inhuman clot, tempts me with the promise of a job on a newspaper,
Oh, these poor
an
yokels.
opportunity to awaken the people to the evils of this capitalistic system,
Remember him,
This man
a
foreigner.
chance for a poor poet to be heard.
Yes.
And before I am able to begin my work, a strike is called.
Remember Haymarket.
I'm tired of fighting the bosses and barons who
the masses.
I cannot choose sides.
Anarchy.
And still I have no job. So I have come here to ask you to join me in my quest.
What quest?
United Quest.
Let
What do you
these
mean?
capitalists know of the despair we poor live in.
Hey, Mark.
Let the bodies pile up in the streets
Hey, Mark.
as a symbol of our protest. Let them know I died, broken by their system. For I have resolved to death.
To death.
To death. With death, let me be cursed. To death, a fond
Glory,
unoath.
hallelujah.
To death you'll see me go. And so, to
Hey,
death.
Haymarket. Stupid. I stood at Haymarket.
Glory,
I
hallelujah.
stood at Haymarket and threw rocks before they brought out the real stuff. I was with the people of Chicago, the newspapers, the world, and gave the man the clemency for the Haymarket 8. And then it was King Marshall Field the First who saw to the execution, and he hoped. Hold on. I can't do this piece in character. I can't. I mean, here I am. I play this anarchist, right? I can't do it. And I tell you the truth. We're talking about strikes. I worked for the Tribune. Yes, it's true. And I actually not for the newspaper, for a subsidiary of the newspaper. You know, like WGN, like Wally Phillips, like the Cubs. Ron Sandberg doesn't have to cross a picket line to get to second base, but I got to cross a picket line twice a day to get to work. You know, and I learned these words like holding corporations, subsidiaries in college. You see, I was an economist before I was a poet. And I liked economy because the human things were just transformed into mathematical problems to be solved. Employment, welfare, the whole bit, they were just reduced to a graph or a green accounting sheet. There was no choices but in numbers. I mean, I stopped reading the newspapers years ago. I mean, the world that they faced me with was a world of choices I just didn't want to deal with. I mean, I'd rather have to choose between a Chardonnay or a Chenin Blanc to drink with dinner than to decide who's right with the whole Iranian thing. I mean, whether Reagan was right for sending arms there, whether Portugal was right for selling the arms to the Contras, whether Switzerland was right in having a bank account that they set up, whether there should be 1 congressional committees, 2 congressional committees, 3. I mean, it blows me away. It confuses me. I mean, I don't like dealing with these issues. The last thing I read on the abortion issue was an essay I wrote in 8th grade. It did win the Knights of Columbus pro-life essay contest. That was the last thing. That was the last thing that I read on the abortion issue. And the thing that upsets me most about the Tribune strike, the single issue that really gets me going is not questions of labor versus management, the Tribune's dirty pool and not bargaining, or the strikers' unrealistic demands. It's not automation versus humanity, labor versus management. What really bums me out is I've got to deal with it. And I've spent my life avoiding choices. So after careful consideration, weighing out all the possibilities, I've made a decision. I've decided to ignore it. The easy way out. And so I cross the picket line twice a day with a paycheck warm in my pocket, and on Sundays I play this character with narrow enough vision, with unrealistic enough loyalty, with enough courage to make a choice. It is the very action of the powerful and wealthy that demand man is humanist. And it is these people we shall shut down. We shall rise to the oppressed and the oppressed.
Chicago, the Cloutsman speaks. A pluribus unum, it says on the money. One people from so many tribes. Chicago rising from ashes from swamp, where river meets lake and prairie meets ocean, and people bump into people. Semitic Greco-Italian mix. And now we got darkies. I mean colored. I mean Negro. Well, black. Well, African American.
Where's the yellow?
Jefferson, Lincoln, Thomas Paine. Did your fancy words really mean this? Indian, Latino American mix. Arab and Oriental. Does the money really mean this? Pluribus. Pluribus. Too damn much pluribus to be any real kind of unum.
My people live one way for a reason. Not a small, haphazard thing. The sun stands center. Earth, our fertile mother. Moon, a close enough sister. Sea, the giant lake. Its shores in constant change. My people live one way for a reason. Not a small, haphazard thing. The river, starting small, falling snow, falling rain, rolling swift across the fertile plain, emptying forever into the giant lake. Its banks, time into space. The meadow dies a witness to the passing age. Flowers of great spirit mind turn and plowed under, ravaged by the great white plague. Still, my people live one way. The river flows one way for a reason. I have seen a nation being displaced. I have seen the prairie being defaced. I have seen the lake being laid to waste. And I have seen the river being forced to change direction. The flow of time erased. Bad medicine, a very small, haphazard thing.
Well, that's right. We have to get down to business. Gentlemen! I'm afraid we must concern ourselves with more practical matters. We are out of Vin Mariana.
Van Mariana.
And as vice chairman of the finance
We're
committee,
all vice chairman of the finance committee.
which may account for our sad lack of funds,
Yeah, and so many deadbeats and poets in our organization.
poetry will not make us any money, but I have formulated a plan.
Man? What do you mean?
Since our newfound friend, Mr. Collins, has decided to take his trip to the other side, and considering the sad state of the club's finances, we may be of mutual benefit
What
to
is
each
on your
other.
mind? I don't like the look on your eyes now.
I understand the weariness of this world, the struggle for money often beats a person down,
I don't understand.
leaves them tired,
You're
weary
evil.
to the bone. I myself might be inclined to follow Mr. Collins on his trip to the unknown on a given morning after too much Van Mariana, but someone has to stay behind, spread the word.
You are a phony.
We have the means. Now, if you were to, and I say if very reluctantly, commit
What are you talking about?
suicide,
Plan?
if you could consign your earthly remains, and Lord knows you won't need them after you've committed the act, if you could say, will your body to the Whitechapel Club,
The great communicator.
I was reading Thackeray's description of the burning of Shelley's body, and I see on the lake, on the dune,
On the lake.
a
On the lake, on the
huge
lake.
funeral pyre white-robed men in poetic reflection on the water. The newspapers bidding for the exclusive rights. Your words will galvanize the nation. Think of the excitement, General. The sensation created. The death of a poet is prerequisite to immortality. And we have the means, the vehicle, to ensure your everlasting glory. A few words on a piece of paper could make all the difference, sir. What say you, sir? What say you to such a plan?
After the wake, your aunts will bake their tears into pineapple upside-down cake. And the uncles will shake their heads and speak of you kinder with each shot of Jim Beam. Your ashes, lying still, will rise up brighter and better looking than you ever were. You will be that unfinished poem, the one that would have brought them all to their knees. And children will learn your name from Sunday supplement bold type, the hype of death following them to bed, haunting them with crumbled eyes from some torn page. And in your wake, your life will take a turn to greatness. Your words will shine a golden cap in the sun. Then they will listen. Then they will hear you after the wake.
Gentlemen, I must leave you now, but doubtless you may hear from me.
Extra, extra, read all about it. Man from Texas commits suicide, wills his body to the Whitechapel Club.
Ladies and gentlemen, when we first started writing this last summer, I brought the idea to these people and they worked their butts off to write all of this stuff. And I want to thank Mike Barrett, Grizzly Adams. Most of our stuff is based on historic fact. Mr. George Ade, John Sheehan, Lady Death, Joyce Caskey, Jackson, the Newsboy, Mr. Dave Cooper, Morris Collins, Anna Brown, Peter Finley Dunn, Rob Van Tuyle. Thank you very much and stay tuned for the next episode. Well, okay.